My name is Melody Barr, and I am the Assistant Director for Public Services. Many of you know me, and I'm so excited to see so many people here today. And I will be managing the guests that are coming in the lobby, and then and hopefully we'll be able to field your questions by the end of the presentation. So welcome.
Good morning. My name is Jared Briggs. I'm the Division Manager here at Public Services and Economic Development. So thank you all for joining us.
Hi, good morning. My name is Alfonso Lopez, Administration Manager, Public Services and Economic Development. Happy to see y'all.
All right, good morning again. So you can see here from the agenda what we'll be going through here today. And then, as I mentioned before, at the end, we'll have time for questions. So this particular funding is up to $600,000. It's CDBG funds. The projects will operate on a reimbursement basis only, and their compliance with CDBG income, activity, service area eligibility, and reporting criteria are required. Our timeline here, the NOFA was issued on Friday, May 10th. Today, we're having our pre-application conference. You have until May 31st to submit questions regarding the NOFA. I'll walk you through that process a little later in the presentation. The actual application deadline will be June 11th, 2024 by 3 p.m. And then the goal is to have new agreement development in late summer, fall of 2024. Move to Jared.
All right, again, good morning, everyone. Like I said, my name is Jared Briggs, and thank you for joining us for the Child Care and Out of School Time Programming NOFA. So we're going to go through some of the priorities and what we're looking for with this NOFA. So the program priorities. So a quick overview. ACD Public Services, our team, we select and fund and manage agreements with nonprofits. We treat them as subrecipients. That's how these agreements work. For those of you that maybe are new, and this is your first time attending one of these events or working with the city. And our goal is to provide an expansion of services to City of Houston residents who are primarily low to moderate income or homeless. So the service providers that we work with typically work on items such as homelessness intervention, early childhood education, job training services, care for residents with intellectual and or developmental disabilities, case management, and much more. It really spans the public services gamut of different activities that are eligible. And particularly with this funding, it's eligible activities with CDBG funding. Next slide. So for this particular NOFA, we're looking for nonprofit organizations that have a 501c3 nonprofit status or similar nonprofit status with the IRS that will offer childcare services and or out of school time enrichment services for youth ages from 0 to 18 years of age that are located within the City of Houston. So 2 key points there. The services must be located within the City of Houston. That's within the city limits of the City of Houston. And the residents, the clients that are being served by the program should be City of Houston residents. So there will be some type of verification that's required as part of the program to prove residency within the City of Houston. So what type of services are we looking for? So with this child care and out of school time programming NOFA, these can be, we would like to see applications that include enrichment activities, and that can be out of school or additional activities with youth that focus on education, art, could be sports, could be other forms of enrichment that provide learning opportunities, that offer a safe place for children that are potentially at risk to learn new skills or to keep them out of trouble. It really is up to the applicants what you want to propose, as long as it's within this general idea of enrichment activities for youth. And again, it can also include childcare. We would like to see childcare activities also include some form of enrichment. Please go back. So the programs that are proposed, we want to see the inclusion of evidence-based practices to determine the effectiveness of the program, and also like how you use those evidence-based practices and metrics to guide your programming. How is it incorporated in like the measuring the effectiveness, measuring the feedback that you get from your participants to change your program or make it more effective and gauge your outcomes. The other thing is, speaking of those outcomes, we want to make sure that they're measurable and that they benefit low to moderate income youth or households. I mean, the focus is youth. So it'll depend on what metric you want to propose and what your unit is. You can either do individual youth or it can be household served. That'll be up to you, and we'll work with you for projects that are selected to really narrow that down. And then the other key thing with CDBG funding is this needs to be a new or expansion of an existing program if you are not currently funded with the City of Houston through our CDBG funds. So we do have some programs that have been funded currently through Child Care Council. And so the purpose of this NOFA is to pick up, continue those types of services. So there are some organizations that have been funded through Child Care Council receiving CDBG funding. They can apply to this NOFA for a continuation. And then the others that are new applicants, again, it should be a new service or an expansion of an existing program. The key here is we can't just like supplant our funds to take over something you were doing and you're just replacing the funding with ours for a service that you were already providing. So again, as it's been mentioned multiple times, this program is funded primarily through CDBG funds that have come from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, known as HUD. These funds are going to be provided on a reimbursement basis, and that's one of the reasons why the NOFA asked for proof that you have a minimum of 90 days of operating capital for your organization. So the NOFA goes into more detail on exactly what kind of documentation could be submitted. But again, we need to see for what you're proposing, we need to see a minimum of 90 days that you can operate this program for 90 days before any funds are received from the city. Because again, we do operate on a reimbursement basis. And the way that our agreements work is you'll do 1 month of service. The following month, normally on the 20th day of the following month, you'll submit your payment, and the city will have up to 45 days to then review and then pay for eligible costs, assuming that the payment is complete and there's not additional information that's needed. The minimum request for this NOFA is $100,000, and the maximum amount that can be requested is $200,000. And the other item to note is that the grant term for these agreements will be 12 months. Are you taking threshold, or do you want me to go?
Sorry about that. So in the NOFA, you have a list of threshold items. The way that threshold items work are they are the bare minimum requirements that you must meet in order to have your application scored. I'll go over them here. They're also, stated in the NOFA PDF. You must not be debarred or suspended from doing business with the city, state, or federal. In good standing with the city, you must provide a certificate of account status, your current 501c3 exemption status. You must provide site control, and that is for the proposed training location or service location. Evidence of capital to support 3 months of operation, as Jared has already explained. This is a minimum of $100,000 and a maximum of $200,000 request, and the project must meet CDBG income, activity, and service area eligibility criteria. Do you want me to do scoring criteria too? All right, so also in the NOFA, you'll have your scoring criteria. So this is, you meet your threshold requirements, and now your application moves into scoring. These are the points that you will be eligible to receive based on the contents of your application. So the first thing we have is organization management for 15 points. Then your experience and past performance for 20 points. Activity need and targeted services, 10 points. Cost reasonableness, 10 points. Budget effectiveness, 10 points. Leveraging contribution, 5 points. Program effectiveness using evidence-based practices, 20 points. And then add agency collaboration for 10 points. And again, in the NOFA, it will walk you through each of these criteria and what that is comprised of. I'm going to hand it over for complaints and appeals to Ava. I believe she's on the call.
Hello. My name is Eva Alcala. I am part of the Complaints and Appeals team, and I'm helping present the Complaints and Appeals overview in place of Kristen Robinson. No complaints will be accepted for NOFAs during the no contact period. Just wanted to put that first. And then also appeals can't be filed until after their determination is made. So complaints can only be accepted concerning HCD operations. And commonly, complaints that we commonly receive are the complaints about processing time, status updates, program requirements, and occasionally conflict of interest. And an estimated time for a response for a complaint is 15 days. For appeals, we only accept appeals after they've received a program determination. And it'll be a resulting from a program, participating in a program or applying for a program with HCD. The common types of appeals that we receive are non-receipt of an award, denial of services, denial of a resolution, or some type of procedural error in their application. The estimated time for a written response in an appeal is 30 to 45 days. So who can file a complaint? For complaints, we can accept complaints from any member of the public and also from anyone who's participating in one of our programs, which would include applicants, developers, contractors, agencies, bidders, vendors, and subrecipients. And then who can file an appeal? For appeals, it would only be people who are participating in a program or who are applying to participate in a program. What do we require from you when you're filing a complaint or appeal? These are going to be basic information that we're going to need for these. We're going to need the first name and last name, address, the name of the project, application number or your NOFA number, RFPs, your phone number. How do we get in contact with you? An email address, maybe. And then let us know what your preferred method of contact is, and then the reason for your complaint or the reason for the appeal. Okay, so and appeals are categorized into tiers. So we have the tier 1, which will be reviewed by the program area. Generally, it'll be a person who did not make the decision. Someone else will review it and then provide a response to the tier 1 level appeal. For tier 2, it will be taken to the appeal review committee, and then the appeal review committee will provide a response on the tier 2 appeal. When programs are funded by DR17, they also have a tier 3 state escalation where they're taken over to the state. There are specific timelines to follow when presenting an appeal. The appeal must be in writing and within 30 days of when you receive the determination letter. We will send an acknowledgement receipt within 1 day of getting the appeal request. And then we have we do allow 5 days to submit supporting documentation. And then we'll also render an appeal determination letter for within 45 days for NOFAs. For NOFAs, we need a little more time because it usually goes through legal. And then this is our information. Should anyone have any questions or would like to submit a complaint or an appeal, our hotline phone number, our email, our address, should you want to mail it, and then for complaints, we can take them over the phone, but for appeals, they have to be in writing. So we would get them in the mail or through the email, and that's it.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about how to get to the NOFA. So on our housing website, under HoustonTX.gov housing/funding, you'll click on NOFA. You can see it here on the screen. There's a little box for NOFA, and it will pull up our featured NOFAs. Right now, we only have the public services childcare and out of school time programming NOFA on the website, so it's easy to find. There's a little button that says view NOFA. Let me show you actually how that works. So when you click view NOFA, it will pull up a PDF of the NOFA and all the information you need regarding scoring, threshold, scope of work. All of that information is provided here in the PDF. There's also a section on selection process and scoring. Talks about our letter of clarification, and then also how to submit instruction for applying, which I'll also go over today. Also on that screen, you'll see, right now you can see a link to the pre-application conference, but after today, that will be gone and you will be able to click on a link to a recording of this conference as well as the PDF of the slides. Also on this site, you have view documents, and these are the documents that are required as part of your application process. So if you click on view documents, it'll pull up a window with all the required documents. And as Melody was just pointing out to me, one of these documents is incorrect. It's this agreements and certification form that is not required. So I will be having that removed later today. But everything else should be documents that you need as part of your application. This application checklist that's fourth down on the list is your kind of your guide or your table of contents, I think, of for your application. So on that checklist is every required document. So before you're submitting the application, please go through that application checklist and make sure that you have every piece of that document. So, after you've looked over the NOFA, you've read the entirety of it, and then you've looked at the website. Now you're going to be ready, or you've actually gotten your documents together and you're ready to submit an application. So now what we do is we use the HCD document submission portal, which you can also find from the NOFA website. There is a little tab right there, HCD document submission portal. And when you click on that, I'll show you in real time, it pulls up the portal. So I'm going to walk you through this part because it can be tricky and people sometimes have issues. So the first thing that is ask our documents for a NOFA submission. You have to choose yes or order for the next question that you need to populate, which is please enter project or solicitation number. And here you're going to enter N051024. Please make sure that you get that number exactly correct, because if you don't, it won't populate correctly and it will ask you for the incorrect document. So no dashes, N051024. You press enter and you can see, you'll know you're on the right page if the NOFA title, childcare and out of school time programming, NOFA populates into NOFA title. And as you scroll down, you'll see where you can put in your organization information. Please make sure that you include a contact email that is regularly checked, because when I'm doing my threshold review and looking over the documents, that will be the email that I use to contact. Sometimes, many times, that there is a very time-sensitive need if you're missing a document and I ask for it. So just make sure you use that email there that we can easily contact you and somebody will respond. As you scroll down the page, you'll see all of the required application contents here. Each piece has its own field, and you just click that box right there and it'll pull up your own browser for you to put in the document that belongs there. Some notes about the portal. One, it does not save your application, so you can't start uploading things, walk away, back later. Can you please mute if you don't mind? So my recommendation is always have all your documents ready and then sit down to the portal and upload them all in one session. Our IT professional has told me that the timeout period is somewhere around 20 to 30 minutes. So if you leave this open on your desktop and you are not actively working in it, it will time out for security reasons. So that is why I suggest sitting down, uploading all the documents at once. You can access the portal through the website, and also there's a link inside the PDF of the NOFA to the document portal. If neither one of those ways are working for you, you can also type in this address right here, this bit.ly link. this will be available to you via the website as well, this slide deck. I've showed you how to do this. If you have any questions along the way regarding the application, the NOFA, anything, please email those questions to hcd_NOFA@houstontx.gov. That email is manned by myself and Jamila Glover. So there'll always be someone checking that email. The next slide, we're going to talk about the no contact period, as it states on this.
There's some that say they can't see the slide. All right. Can I get a show of hands of those? You can use your raise the hand feature of those that cannot see the slides. Okay, so I think that must be your two. There must be an issue with your two areas, because I only see two people that are not able to see the slides. Everyone else is able to see the slides. So you may want to. So it could be that you need to exit, and then you could come back into Teams. Also remember that this recording will be published, so you can look back on this. So if you are having some challenges right now, you are able to rewatch the pieces that you haven't been able to see. But a lot of times with Teams, if you're unable to see what we're sharing, you may have to exit and come back in.
So what the no contact period means is that no applicants should attempt to influence the outcome of the award by contacting a city employee, an elected official, any of their families or staff members. That doesn't mean that you cannot contact anyone at the city. It means you cannot contact anyone about this NOFA in an attempt to influence the outcome. So to be safe, if you have a question about the NOFA, it is recommended that you email the hcd_NOFA@houstontx.gov. If it is a question I cannot answer, I will reach out to Jared and Melody, and then I will provide you with the response. Again, this is stating that you, as I previously stated, you should not attempt in any way to influence the outcome of the award. However, nothing in this paragraph shall prevent an applicant from making public statements to the City Council convened for a regularly scheduled session after the official selection has been made and placed on the City Council agenda, or to a City Council committee convened to discuss a recommendation regarding the application. So that's after the recommendations have been made. One thing before we do question and comments, I didn't discuss the letter of clarification. So when you submit a question to me before May 31st, that question will be published in a letter of clarification on the housing website under the NOFA section. All question and answers will be posted there. So it's highly recommended that before you submit your application, after May 31st, go check and see if anything has been posted in terms of clarification. Could be any changes to the NOFA text. If we find something is incorrect or needs to be changed, it will be posted in a letter of clarification. So as a best practice, always check there to make sure nothing has changed before you apply. And again, I am here to help you in any way I can regarding the application process. And even if it's after the question period and you need help submitting the application, like you don't have a question about the NOFA, but you need help submitting it, at any time you can reach out to me to help you with that process. Okay, I guess we'll open it up for questions.
Yeah, let me take that first. All right, so I will start answering some of the questions that are in chat. And so the first question that was asked is, can the evidence of capital be a combination of a collaboration? Meaning if you're offering in a combination of our organizations and maybe two other organizations, can capital be the total combined amount of the 2 to 3 organizations? This isn't a collaborative, you wanna stop sharing your screen? So this isn't a collaborative application, meaning that one entity is going to apply, and then that entity is going to be responsible for the services. So if you have partnerships, that's fine. You can work with the partnerships, but the grant will be to one entity. So the 3 months or 25% of your ask needs to be provided in capital. And so again, you're looking at a minimum of $25,000 for your organization to have that capital set aside or a line of credit that can show that you can actually organize and provide the funding for this particular NOFA. So the second question was asked about the agreement certification form. I did put in chat that that form is going to be modified and removed. And then, can a prospective project exclusively serve special populations like refugees or immigrants? Again, this is your program. And so I would refer back to your activity need, your targeted services, and you're going to have to explain how this is providing these services for individuals 0 to 18. So there is no exclusion for special populations. We just need to understand what the target need is, and then that's target service. And then the next question is, does being a City of Houston affect your application? So if you would like to ask this question separately, you can send it to Lindsay, and then we can further explain. But I will say that we are, as part of the requirement, there is a COI, a conflict of interest form that must be completed. And so anyone that is attached to the City of Houston will have to fill out that application, and then that conflict of interest will have to be evaluated by legal. And then is being a Texas workforce approved agency that helps families apply for and receive tuition assistance for our preschool meet the NOFA scoring criteria for S2, and this is experience and past performance. My recommendation is that you go through that particular section and then address those thoughts, right? What are you doing? What is your experience for this particular service? Right, because the question that is asking is, you're helping families apply for, but are you actually providing the service? This NOFA is for the providing of the service of the child care program. Our organization provides services to homeless families, including child care. Are we required to provide services for others in the community and not just our residents? So again, that goes back to your activity need and your targeted services. I would just say explain that, go through that, what is it that you're doing and what are you trying to ask for funding related to this NOFA? I don't think that that's an exclusion, but we would need to understand. And then, yes, we are sharing the slides, so those will be online, as Lindsay indicated. And let's see. For the purposes of avoiding supplanting, what counts as a program expansion? And so if you are a new program that hasn't received CDBG funding, the supplanting really doesn't apply. It mostly applies when you are receiving governmental grants, and then those governmental grants, those federal dollars, for some reason are gone. And so you're like, oh, let me go and get CDBG funds. So we'll be looking at your past history. We'll be looking at different components of your project to make sure that this is a new program, new to CDBG, or this is an expansion. Typically, expansion is about 50% of your services. So if you're serving 100 students or 100 children, and you're now, with this money, you're able to expand in for another 50 slots, that would be what we're looking for in terms of expansion. Do you have any comments on that?
No, I think that's good.
Can you clarify what will and will not be funded? Well, again, we're looking for childcare services and out-of-school programming. Anything outside of that, we're not going to fund with this NOFA.
The other thing to add is focus on those threshold items. If you do not pass threshold, your application will not be reviewed to go to full evaluation. So you have to meet all that criteria that was listed in the threshold items.
Yes. Can someone answer my question, please? So this is not for small organizations. This is for any type of organization, but you have to have the financial capacity. This is really important because this is a reimbursement grant. And if you're unable to float the cost for the first 3 months, then I have seen in my experience that it can harm cash flow to organizations. So if you are a very small organization and you're not able to come up with the minimum, which is $25,000 of cash flow, this may not be the right funding for you. And there may be other organizations out there that have smaller grants. What type of out-of-school time needs is a city looking to fill? That's really dependent on your organization. There are some childcare services that do 24-hour childcare. And so they specifically are targeting persons that are working and like the late night shift, the second shift. So we're open to any type of out of school care, summer program, after school care, anything for students to keep them safe. So that really comes down to what your organization is doing. This is a way to not limit the services being provided. So this isn't just the school age children, but I'm sorry, it's not just like the elementary age children or infants. This would be, anyone from, 0 to 18. These services, this is a 12-month application as indicated in the NOFA. Can leveraging being drawn from across your organization? So leveraging is always important. And I think that some of the best projects come in show that the money that is being applied for at the city is part of a larger project. And so that larger project, and then our money might be like something, smaller, or to expand the project, you're going to be able to show that leveraging. So absolutely leveraging can come from within your organization. How is this program a part of that organization? How are you leveraging these dollars for other dollars? To confirm, at minimum $25,000 on hand or $25,000 line of credit, either or. Many of our programs have a line of credit dedicated to these types of services. And so we just want to be able to see that you have the financial capacity. If you're expanding, well, the application needs to focus on data for the expanded demographic, current demographic, or both. It should be both. So if you have current data that shows the services that are needed, and if you expand, this is what we intend to do with this expansion, we should be able to see that. What is an accounting system certification? So I'm going to ask you to please look at your those particular exhibits. But essentially, every organization that is funded through the City of Houston must adhere to the 2 CFR 200. If you're not aware of 2 CFR 200, please get aware with them very quickly, because those are the cost principles for nonprofit. We will go out and annually monitor all organizations to ensure that they are in adherence to 2 CFR 200. If you're not in adherence, you are violating, federal rules, and we will let you know. Do we need a minimum of $100,000 in the banks to qualify for funding? No, the $100,000 is the floor to this application. So we will not accept any application that comes in that's under $100,000. That is part of the threshold. Nor will we accept an application that is over $200,000, because that is the ceiling. Evidence of site control is if you are submitting an application to us for child care services, out of school care services, and you mention that you're going to provide services at 123 Main Street. Do you have a lease in place for 123 Main Street? Do you have actual control of that location, or is this just an idea? Right? So we want to make sure that you have site control, that you actually have a relationship and you have the ability to provide services in the location in which you are indicating.
And if I can add, site control can also be, do you have an agreement with that agency? It may not be you have a lease, but you have an executed agreement, an MOU, something that shows that they are going to allow you to use that location to provide the services that you are proposing.
Okay, let's see. How is scoring weighted regarding the number of children who will be served with this funding? The scoring is not weighted on the number of individuals you're serving. So we have included the scoring criteria, and that's how we're scoring the proposal. So this is about quality. This is not about quantity. Is the absolute age limit, even for those with special needs, 18? If a student is a special ed, can we serve up to age 22? We're going to have to get back with you on that. Right now, the NOFA is written for 0 to 18, and so we will take this under consideration. And when we issue a letter of clarification, we will answer that particular question. Let's see, can equipment be funded or only services? Equipment associated with services. So equipment, I would ask that you look at 2 CFR 200 for what your definition of equipment is. If this is maybe supplies, And that is a possibility of it being funded. But when we think from the federal rules, what equipment is, that is typically not a funded activity. I'm trying to think what equipment could be used.
I mean,
Like kitchen, like a sink, or like a stove is considered a refrigerator. That's equipment. That would not be something that we're interested in funding under this particular NOFA.
and typically 2 CFR is we're gonna go by that definition. So equipment is gonna be something with a unit price of $5,000 or more per item. And that's really not the intent of this NOFA. We're looking more for services, staff. We can do supplies related to the provision of those services. And if there is an equipment or a particular item that is needed to provide the service that's being proposed, you're going to need to explain the relevance of that. If you were doing an after-school program and maybe the facility didn't have something to store items, to keep them cold, and you're serving food as well to youth, there's a possibility. We're, not ruling it out, but it needs to be related to the actual provision of the services that you're proposing.
And just for clarification, for CDBG funds, no food is allowed. So if you're trying to get food paid for as part of this program, that is not an allowable cost. And clothing, so food and clothing are not allowed. Equipment. What could be considered as support for activity needs? I'm not sure I understand that question. So if you can clarify what that question is. If we previously received CDBG funding through Child Care Council, do we need to show new program in order to qualify? No, you do not. To apply, should there be $25,000 that the organization currently has? Yes, there needs to be a line of credit. There needs to be some type of funding that is available, and you will have to prove documentation on that. Can completed portions of the application be submitted? No, it has to be all submitted at one time. If a program also serves children outside of the city of Houston, does that disqualify you? So this is a really good question. This program is going to be CDBG funded, which means that it is a jurisdictional funding stream that comes to the city of Houston and can only and must only serve persons living in the city of Houston. So if your organization is in the city of Houston limits and it happens to serve people that are living outside of the city of Houston limits, that's fine. But those services for that individual living outside of the city of Houston cannot receive funding from us. So what we would look for is some type of allocation of cost. So if you have a child care worker that is providing services to all students and 2 of those students are outside of the city of Houston, then our department is not going to reimburse 100% of that salary cost. It will need to be allocated by those students, and you will have to show us how those students that are living outside of the city of Houston are being funded with other funds other than city of Houston funds.
The other thing is we would expect some type of address verification as part of your intake and enrollment for the program to show, that you're verifying that these are city of Houston residents. And depending on how the program is set up, you would verify each individual client being served. And then even if you have those that are outside, then that would establish your ratio. If maybe it's 100 in your program and 50 are city of Houston residents, 50 are outside the city, then okay, then that would let us know you verified that 50 are from within the city of Houston, then we can cover 50% of the program costs.
Okay, can you explain the meaning of a 12-month application? And I think what that means, I think what you're asking is what is our 12-month, it's a 12-month agreement. That's the term. So when you make this application and we decide, we're going to go ahead and move forward and you've been notified of that, the only individuals that can approve an actual agreement is city council. So this will go before city council, and the agreement presented to city council will be for a 12-month period. So 1 year. And so that's what that 12-month means. If we serve both early childhood education and after school, these can be combined into one proposal, correct? Absolutely. So this is your program. What does your program serve? And so if your program is serving both populations, then absolutely, and that will be part of your application as well as your budget. Please provide the link to the NOFA again. It will be on the slides and it is also in this chat. Does leverage include in kind? Your leverage is absolutely, in kind. It can be cash, but that is not part of your line of credit. So leverage is not a requirement for this particular NOFA, and neither is match. But leverage is one of the components when we look at how we rate the application of what you're bringing into the program. That particular leverage that is looked at is really looked at as your cash leverage. But in-kind is important to make programs whole and successful. Is the absolute age limit even for those with special needs? Okay, so we answered that question. What documentation or support for childcare as what for support?
I think they're looking for clarification on when we say the activity need, like what is the justification for the need? To
Yeah.
say in this, if you're proposing childcare services, you would tell us, you would, a part of your narrative would explain what is the need in the community that we're seeing. We see that our services are required because there are low to moderate income families that don't have access to childcare, or that it's not open at the time, and therefore our service will fill this needs. So you're going to explain to us what is the activity that you're proposing, why is there a need for it? That is part of the narrative that we want to see. In addition to the scope where you're explaining what you're going to do, we need to know why. Why is there a need for it?
Right. What about staff that live outside? We don't look at your staff's address. When we pay for staff, you're paying for the service. We are looking at the people that are benefiting from the program. So this is the beneficiaries. That is who we look at for the city of Houston. What level of evidence for the program is expected? And I don't know if this means evidence-based practices or, but I would say, how do you know your program is successful? Why should the city of Houston invest in your program? If you indicate that our program has reduced absenteeism by 20%, great. Show us how you know that. Like, where are you getting your data from? Our program has, if you come to our program, your reading levels are going to increase by 2 grade levels. What are you using to determine that? So this isn't just, let's take care of children that are not in school. This is what is the impact of your program? And any successful program is going to have that data, and they're going to be able to show us why this is so important. So that's what we're looking for. There's several different methods on how to do that. And so we're not asking you to use one or another, but we are looking for evidence-based practices. And we are looking for the data that you can provide to us, why your program is so successful and how it is, how it's impacting the community. Would our articles of formation with our address suffice for our certification of location? You should have, no, your articles of formation just tell us where you were once located, but you were looking for either a occupancy permit, a mortgage, a lease, some documentation that says you have the authority to be there and locate this program. Does it have to be only out-of-school activity to qualify? I don't know what that means. I feel like what we're trying to do is childcare services or out-of-school activities. So if you're doing childcare services, these are for individuals that are not school age. And then if you are doing services for school age individuals and they're not in school, then it would be out of school activities. So those are the 2 activities that we're looking to fund. Can the program be for kids to use an online program at home? No, that would be outside of what we're looking for. And I think I answered all the questions here. Don't worry, because if you're like me, you might have a question at like 2 a.m. This is where I do a lot of my great thinking, is at 2 or 3 a.m, which is not always the best. But you may have a question. And so send that question to Lindsay. We are happy to answer those questions, and we will put that in written form. Does staff payroll qualify? If so, how much of the funding will be applied to payroll? Again, that's going to be part of your budget, and staff payroll is appropriate, but you're going to have to decide how much is admin, how much is direct services, and what allocation methods you're using to for your budget, right? So we typically don't fund 100% of any program. And because we don't fund 100% of that program, there will be, you will have to show us how you allocate that program. And yes, the minimum amount that can be requested under this NOFA is $100,000. Oh, is there? What if you are a new childcare program, only open a few months? What evidence or data that could be used if you're still collecting? That's a really good question. So I would ask, why did you open the new program? What data, what information did you use to justify the opening of that program? But also what data and what evidence-based practices are you using to perform those services that are newly open? So you'll still want to address it, and you'll want to explain that piece. You want to explain the lack of data, and you'll want to explain what you're using to collect right now. Your program absolutely should be licensed under the child care licensing if you are doing a child care program. So yes, that's a given. All right. I think that's it. All other questions we will go ahead and answer in writing. Please send them to Lindsay. And I will just say that we are considered in a blackout period. And I just want to reiterate that we do not ask for support letters from your council members. You should not be talking to elected officials about your application. You should not be contacting anyone outside of Lindsay and that email to ask questions about your application. If you currently have an agreement with us, you are welcome to continue to talk to your relationship manager about your current agreement, not about this NOFA. This is very serious. This can reject you from the actual NOFA itself because it would be a violation. And so if you have any questions about, am I violating the blackout period? Again, send your questions to Lindsay, which is at hcd_NOFA@houstontx.gov.
2 more questions.
Okay, so last 2 questions. Our program provides activities to students during the school hours, but they take place outside their zone schools. School transports the students to us. But those activities be considered as an out of school? Absolutely. Can I already have a childcare center and apply? Yes. All right. Thank you so much. I hope this was informative, and please refer, again, the blackout period is while the NOFA is underway, right? And we do refer to that in the actual NOFA document, so please take a look at that. And I'm going to go ahead and stop questions now. So any other questions will need to go to the website. Thank you very much.
All right, everyone. So that's going to conclude today's presentation. Again, thank you all for joining us. We appreciate everyone that took the time to join us and ask your questions. Again, submit your questions online. The letters of clarification will be posted on the website in the same place where the NOFA is. Again, reach out to Lindsay or the HCD NOFA email to submit your questions, or if you need any other assistance. Again, thank you all today for joining us. We're going to sign off now. So have a good rest of your day.